And welcome back to Tuesday Night Sports Talk. Before the break, we were touching on this 2017 draft that will be approaching faster than we are ready for it. As football season is starting to die down, we at least have the draft to look forward to. And we were talking about DeShaun Watson versus DeShaun Kizer. Kurt's not really buying DeShaun Kizer. He thinks that his numbers, just coupled with the fact that he's played for a very weak Notre Dame team, is going to hinder his performance in the NFL.
I don't necessarily say it'll hinder, but you're basically putting an underdeveloped, undertrained quarterback with no mentor. If he goes in the top 10, no mentor, he's going to get thrown to the fire. And if you look at the history of quarterbacks that have been drafted in the first round, the vast majority of them fail. Even the first rounders. I mean, there's been 12 first-round draft picks that have been quarterbacks since 2001. 6 are serviceable or better, and 6 have failed. So it's basically a coin toss. And if you look at all the quarterbacks drafted in the first round since 2001, there's been 45 of them. And of those, 15 have been good. So 1 out of 3. So you have a 33% chance. Unless you're a baseball player, those aren't great odds. And it kind of takes me to, I know you wanted to talk about a little bit about Jake Locker. In 2011, the quarterbacks that were drafted were Cam Newton, number 1, Locker, Gabbert, Ponder. Well, Gabbert is buried behind Colin Kaepernick in the 49ers depth chart. Wow. Ponder, I don't even think is in the league anymore, and neither is Locker. I think he's selling insurance.
He retired in 2014.
Long career.
Ponder is in the league. He's also with the San Francisco 49ers.
Oh, apparently the Niners were in love with 2011 draft quarterbacks.
Oh, man. But no, speaking of this, so this 2017 NFL mock draft, CBS Sports got Myles Garrett out of Texas A&M going first overall to Cleveland. Don't think anyone has a problem with that. Mitch Trubisky out of North Carolina going to San Francisco at 2. The Bears, even though they desperately need a quarterback, going with Jonathan Allen, probably the best, second best defensive player, best, depending on who you ask. It's either Garrett or Allen, coin toss, going to the Bears at 3. Jacksonville Jaguars, they have him taking Dalvin Cook at 4. You think that Jacksonville's been watching Ezekiel Elliott this year, thinking we kind of want a little bit of that to happen? We're going to take our luck getting a running back at 4 for a second straight year? Well,
the NFL is known as a copycat league, and I know every team in the NFL is looking at Zeke Elliott and saying, where can I find the next one? Is it Dalvin Cook? That's to be told. But I will say this: Jacksonville desperately needs a running game. They need to shore up their defense. They're interviewing Chip Kelly as their offensive coordinator, which, if Chip Kelly gets hired, I don't necessarily think Dalvin Cook is the right back for them because of just the way the offensive scheme that he runs. I don't think that Chip Kelly and Tom Coughlin, who's the VP of operations over there, is really going to get along because of just the way Coughlin is. But we'll see. I mean, it's a solid pick. It's the best player on the board. I mean, it's really Leonard Fournette or Dalvin Cook as far as number 1 and number 2. But the one thing that we have to throw into the mix is Tony Romo. Tony Romo, I don't care what the Dallas Cowboys are saying. They're going to trade him. Right now they're throwing smoke screens to get him a higher trade value. I mean, you look at what they did to the Vikings when they trade raped them back in 1989, where they got 4 players, like 9 picks. It was ridiculous. They can do something along those lines with Romo right now, and the 3 teams that really pop out in my head are the Browns. Okay. The Browns, as much as I pick on the Browns because, well, I'm a Steeler fan and the Browns are just fun, easy to pick on, they're not a bad team. I mean, they have Coleman and Pryor. They have a decent running back in Crowell. Kessler could be a good quarterback if he can actually stay conscious. If they brought in Romo, they would instantly win an additional 5 or 6 games. They might squeak into the playoffs year 1. He'd be a great mentor to Kessler. And they have the picks. They have 11 picks next in this draft, 2017. And I believe they have upwards to 12 in 2018 with the
smart building.
Yep. So they could trade away a couple of the picks. They could trade away Joe Hayden, which I know he's coming off of injury. He's going to be 30 years old, but Dallas desperately needs secondary help, and maybe toss in, a 2018 draft pick or whatnot.
I can't see them trading away Joe Hayden for a soon-to-be 37-year-old Tony Romo.
Well, their secondary, he's been oft injured. He's going to be 30.
He's 27.
No, I thought he was 30.
He's 27. He'll be 28 this year.
He'll be 30 in 3 years. I stand corrected. Oh, no, Aqib Talib is 30. I'm sorry.
Aqib Talib.
Which brings me to the Broncos. which means that the Broncos actually have 10 picks. They have 3 number 3s, so they could easily package, Talib, a couple of third-round picks, maybe a couple picks next year, and then the Cowboys, they have 7 picks in 2017, but they could have upwards to 12 in 2018 because they have 5 possible compensatory picks. So there's a lot of moving parts there that I think that they're going to be movers on draft day to be able to open up some stuff, unload that salary for Romo, and maybe get some necessary help that they need in the secondary and on the defensive line.
I don't see them trading Talib either. He was named an All-Pro this year, Pro Bowl this year. The guy is one of the best secondary players, and I just don't see them, because you got to remember the Broncos drafted Paxton Lynch in the first round last year. Paxton Lynch, there was times last year where they were saying Paxton Lynch could potentially go first overall to Los Angeles. He could go second overall to Philadelphia. Now they chose Jared Goff and Carson Wentz, but Paxton Lynch, he slipped to the Broncos, and I think they got lucky on him. But he played a little this year, but not enough that I think that next year we'll really see. I don't think Trevor Siemian's the guy. I think they're going to kind of play with Paxton Lynch a bit and just see what kind of results they get.
Right, and that's the difference between you and I, because I tell it how it is, you tell it how it might be. You're talking about potential. And you're right, Paxton Lynch has great potential, but who's there to mentor him? Trevor Siemian? Nah. Brock Osweiler? He got $72 million in Houston. That was a fantastic investment.
He plays in the same franchise that John Elway is a president for. He's got a mentor. He's got one of the best quarterbacks of all time that can mentor. Now, obviously, John Elway probably can't go down to the field and throw with him, but he's one of the best.
How much time do you think Elway has to spend with them? All I'm saying is that and you talk about Talib. Yes, Talib their secondary is phenomenal. Vance, their new coach, is a secondary guy. That's the one thing that I think that may prevent them from happening. But they have Roby, that kid of Ohio State, that literally has been just lights out. So you have this youth coming up. You have the ability to just insert a quarterback that can easily win a Super Bowl. Do I think that the Broncos will take him or make it happen? Probably not. Out of the 3, they're probably number 3. To me, Browns are number 1. The 49ers are actually number 2. They have a tremendous amount of picks. They have some room to work with in the cap. They have, they could easily kick back Kaepernick or even Gabbert, and with the Browns, they could toss in RG3 as a potential backup to Dak. Both fit that same exact style. Kaepernick is in desperate need of a change of scenery. I mean, if dude's fro gets any bigger, he might have his hair catch on fire like Michael Jackson did in the Pepsi commercial. You weren't even near being born at that point.
I can't see Colin Kaepernick going to Dallas, but I could potentially see RG3, because I know that Jerry Jones had interest in him last year with the uncertainty. But Tony Romo, I just think he's near the end of his career. He's injured so often. If he goes somewhere, I would cheer for him to do well. But I could also see San Francisco, because there was rumors today, the rumors got squashed, that San Francisco was going to try to make a push for Phillip Rivers, because Phillip Rivers doesn't want to move to LA, but Phillip Rivers came out, squashed those rumors. And actually, Phillip Rivers and Joey Bosa are going to be on Jimmy Kimmel tonight, so I'm actually going to watch that.
Oh, I'll have to TiVo that.
Yeah,
Bosa's my boy.
Yeah, defensive rookie of the year, not too bad, so I'm like it. So thank you for joining us for another great episode of Tuesday Night Sports Talk. We'll be back next week to recap who's going to Super Bowl 51.
Packers Steelers.